Hello, everybody. My name is Elisa Rodriguez, and I will be presenting on a topic that is hopefully something that you all would appreciate, which is learning about car comfort and safety. So, today we are going to be talking about several items. The first will be ergonomics, and then we'll talk about staying cool for both you and your car in the summertime, staying warm in the wintertime for you and your car, and then some general safety tips. So, first off, we're going to talk about a whole list of things. Some of it is how you are in the car, and then another big part will be kind of the accessories like the steering wheels and mirrors and how those should be to help you. So first off, we're going to talk about your position in the car, starting off with the bottom part, the seat. So we want to make sure that our legs are very comfortable and our thighs are supported all the way from the back of our hips, which is fully against the back of the seat, and all the way up to the knees, which we don't want to have any pressures on. We also don't want the knees to be higher than our hips. That's going to create some long-term discomfort. After some time. And so part of that leg comfort is also making sure that you can reach the brakes and acceleration comfortably. If not, adjust the distance, but not the tilt, because that would mess with your support. And so now we're going to talk about the backrest. So something that a lot of people like to do is being a little more back, a little more relaxed, but it's actually recommended that we are at about 100 to 110 degrees. So just barely past pure upright. Additionally, we also want to make sure that we have lumbar supports. A lot of the newer cars have adjustability. That way you can ensure that it is best fit for you and your body. So moving on, we're going to talk about the actual posture. We want to make sure we're nice and flush against the backrest and the seat. We don't want to lean one way or another, so we're going to keep our body pretty straight. And we also want to make sure we aren't twisting more than necessary. We're keeping our head nice and up rather than like hunched out, having good posture as always. That also making sure that every time before we get going, we make sure that we are comfortable, especially because some journeys can be quite a bit. So if you're at a red light and you need to adjust, make sure you do so to help keep yourself comfortable. We're also going to be talking about the steering wheel. So, something that we want to make sure is that the distance between our shoulders and the wheel is comfortable for us. So, something that they said would be a nice little tip or trick to getting that comfort is to extend your arms all the way out, dipping your wrist over the steering wheel. And then once you grab it, that ideally and in general would be comfortable for you. So that's a little trick. Wherever that is, we do want to make sure that the distance is more than 10 inches from your chest. And that's just for safety reasons. So might be something to consider if you do have shorter arms. We want to place our hands around 9 and 3. I've heard 10 and 2, 8 and 4. So sticking around that general area will be nice. We also want to make sure that we don't flail out our arms and that we're keeping them nice. And again, not tilted one way or another, but nice and straight and aligned with the rest of our body. And so we're also going to want to make sure that we have our mirrors properly adjusted. We don't want to have to move our body much more than necessary. So whatever you need to adjust for both the rear view and the sides, you want to be able to glance and then have all the information you need. You don't want to have to make yourself sit up straight or look over. None of that, because all of that should be adjustable, and if it is, then we can, again, beforehand, make sure that it's comfortable and proper. Um, the sun and the glare is definitely something that is kind of hard to like. You have a route, you're used to things, but the sun depends on when you're leaving, where you're going, the time of the year, the time of the day. So there's a lot of stuff that makes it so the glare is a little bit trickier. But some easy tricks to help reduce eye strain and comfort would be to use your sunglasses, have an extra pair in case you break one. So just having that ready, but also your sun visors. So making sure they go down, but also they are fairly easy to replace. So if you don't like yours and it's driving you nuts, you can absolutely go onto Amazon, a car shop, and get one that maybe has a little more depth or goes a little bit wider or has a bigger extender. That way, it gives you more options and also more protection against the sun. So, talking about things that are a little more generalized. You guys are therapists. You have a lot of documentation to do, and no one wants to do that at home after they've already had a long day. So, if you are someone that does do your work in your car, maybe in between patients, or you get somewhere early and you want to hop on your laptop, iPad, whatever to do your documentation, it might be a good idea to move over to the passenger seat. This is primarily because you have more leg room. You can move a little bit more freely. You don't have as much stuff in the way, like the steering wheel. And of course, you can also adjust it back for that leg room. Um, Something or you might have to do is because we want the laptop, excuse me, and keyboard to be pretty parallel. We don't want to have to be looking down at our laps, or tilting the screen all the way out, is to maybe keep a couple of blankets in the back and then fold it up on your lap to give it some extra height to make it a little more friendly on your shoulders and your neck and your eyes and stuff like that. But if you don't want to take the time to move over to the passenger seat, or it's legroom's not that big of the deal for you, they do have little steering wheel desktops that you just put right on. And that also gives you the height that that blanket or pillow would have in the passenger seat. So that's something you can do. And they're pretty thin. So it's not like you have a big clunky item in the way. So that's just something that you can keep close by. Some general advice is that you don't want restrictive clothing to prevent you from moving. I know we don't want to be excessively moving one way or another, but partially for safety, but also partially so you aren't working kind of against yourself in like a puffy jacket or really tight clothing, is just to avoid it. Emptying your pockets so you're not sitting on uneven height. So if you have your wallet, take that out, your phone, take that out, just for better posture. And I know on longer car trips, it might be tempting to tilt your knees out so it's resting on maybe the door or the console. Over time, that is going to give you some issues. So just if you see yourself doing it, keep yourself in check and then keep your body again nice and in line. Some other things that over time might be worth getting into the habit of is getting in and out in a specifically ergonomic way. So you want to be a little more gentle with your body. So when you get in, you're actually going to open the door and then be facing out from the car. So you're going to have the car, you're going to be facing away, and then you'll sit down in. And then once you're sat down in, you're going to swivel both of your legs together into the car. So we are very aware for our patients talking about good mechanics and ergonomics and thinking just about their comfort and ways to make it easier. And this will be easier on your body if you kind of go, and it's a little bit funky, but in that way. And then when you get out, you just reverse it, swivel your legs and body out, and then stand up with your feet together. Something else that I'm sure a lot of us are already doing is listening to music while we drive. So listening to music, whether if you're just in a mood and you want moody music, that also helps you breathe a little bit deeper and slower compared to no music at all. So even if you're in your feels, just listening to some music would have benefits. And then, as always, listening to music that is happy and ones you like will prevent like road rage because behaviorally it does make a big difference to us. So over time, listening to music versus not listening to anything in silence could be beneficial in the long run. And so now we're going to move on to staying cool. This is for you. And I have a second part about your car. And so this study talks about things that we've all experience. It's really hot, we're a little irritable, and then stuff like that can increase kind of danger on the road. So we want to make sure that you are as safe as you can be and just not feeling crappy. So some ways to do that would just be making things a little cooler for you, and also just general like where you should park and more basic things. So staying cool, first step, parking in the shade. Everyone, um, it's simple. If you don't have sun shining on your car, the sun won't warm up your car as much. So if you need to park a little bit further away and walk a little bit farther, by the time you're back from your hour-long therapy session, it's going to be a big difference whether if you parked a little closer for convenience. So comfort, convenience, totally up to you, but that is a number one tip and it's free. So definitely is dependent on the situation, but is a good idea. Windows, we're going to talk about both tinting your windows and sunshades. So, sunshades, something that a lot of people are already doing, but if you can block out, excuse me, the primary point of entry for that sun and that heat, that's going to help reduce the temperature inside. So some sunshades are better materials, so they claim to be better at absorbing heat. So that might be something to check out. It's not just the price, but also what they're saying their ability is to help you. And so they also make some sunshades for like the rear window and the side. So if you want to make your car as um, beneficial with sunshades, you can go further than just that front window. Moving on to tints. Tints are good because it helps let light in while keeping sun rays out if it is really good quality. So that quality is something to look out for, as they'll call it the heat rejection rate. So if you are getting into tints, that is something you're going to want to inquire about before getting it. Something to note is that if you are traveling out of states, different states have different rules and regulations. So before you make this big change to your car, go ahead and think about it more than just saying this will be good to help keep me cool. Because this is your personal vehicle as well as your work vehicle. Moving on, if it is super hot out and it's like boiling, you don't want to touch the steering wheel, anything. Something you could do is just keep a cloth and then damp it with your water and give it a nice little rub down. It's going to help cool it off. A similar thing would be to keep a little water bottle and just spray it. It's going to evaporate. So either one should be helpful. If you do have a lot of electronics or stuff like near your seats that you don't want to get wet, the wipe down might be a better idea. But those are two tips that are fairly simple and easy and can help. Beyond using water to help keep cool, having lighter colored seat covers, especially if you have dark leather in your car, having seat covers is going to protect the longevity because you are out and about more. You can't just hide your car away in the garage to protect it. So it's protecting and it's also keeping you comfortable. So having that would be a win-win. It would change the look. So maybe seasonal covers more than long-term. But that's an idea for when you sit down. If you don't want to put on a seat cover because it could be a hassle taking it on and off, just keeping a couple blankets like on the cushion or propping it up so your lower back doesn't get as hot. And then you put them on before you leave, take them out, and hopefully will not be as hot to the touch. And this would also work good if you don't want to get like a steering wheel cover that's maybe like fabric and a little, light colored as well, because that would do something similar as the seat cushions. You could also just cover that with a blanket. So it does the same function, but for both the steering wheel and the seat, just drape in a blanket or a little tea towel or something like that over it before you head out. So I was looking into windows. Should you crack them open? Should you not crack them open? And they talked about leaving them open keeps like some air circulation. So it's not hot, stale air, but they also say that it does not significantly reduce the temperatures. So if you are feeling like the neighborhood that you are in No fault to anyone, just is not the place that you would want to leave your windows cracked open. Don't crack them open. But if you do, and some people really like leaving the windows open, by all means, do it. And if you do that, you can also combine it with other tips that make it especially good to cool down. So if you have your windows cracked open, you want to do that before you head out. You also are going to want to aim your air vents down to the ground and set the setting, if you have options, to the external air. The idea is that the external air, by the time that you are done and getting back into your car, is probably going to be cooler than the air that's been sitting in your hot car. So setting it to external will pull in cooler air right off the bat. And aiming the vents down, you're going to force that heat up and then out of those open windows. So that's kind of the thinking behind that. If you have an automatic car starter built into your car, that's awesome. If not, they do sell those, and you can make your car an automatic auto start. So if it's super hot, you might want to consider starting your car as you're saying goodbye, walking out, just any little time that you can get getting your car going before you actually have to sit down and be in there is going to help cool it out. So once you're in the car and it's starting to cool out, go ahead and close those windows. You're going to want to keep that cold air in and set the air to the recirculated. And then at that point, the warm air is going to be out already. So aim it wherever you want. If you don't want to do all that or you forget, a lot of people have either seen it or tried it or heard about it. Just rolling down, I say the passenger rear window and then slamming the driver's door open and close, open and close. You are doing the work of your air conditioning. So it's gonna do, and it's bigger. So you're going to give your AC a little bit of help, already getting a good chunk of air out by just fanning it. So now moving on to your car, there are some things that you probably already know about, but this is your livelihood, so a reminder won't hurt. But then also things that you may not have known. So, talking about your battery, the heat accelerates the chemical reactions in the battery. So, periodically lifting up the hood and seeing if there's any corrosion on the terminals would be good, because that's going to get bad quick. Talking about tire pressure, never ending battle. You got to watch it in the winter and summertime. Making sure it's at the recommended levels is always going to be good. And that'll prevent some pretty serious issues like blowouts. The one that I did not know about that I did think was a good idea is to get your car waxed. So having it waxed is going to be good for your car, a little bit more than it is good for you. So it's going to be like sunscreen. So it's going to help keep the harmful rays from affecting the color. And if it's super bad in older cars, it'll peel the paint off. So just it's a little prevention to keep things nice and shiny and new. They also say the reflexiveness of the wax itself helps bounce the rays back up, keeping your car a little bit cooler, which is always a good thing. So between the two, waxing is something you may want to consider, especially if you care about the appearance of your car. And then moving on to something that we probably all know is just to be aware and up to date and on top of things like our coolant and fluids and stuff like that. So go ahead, top off what you need, monitor what you can, and that will keep your car running. So this is from the RAC website, which is they do like insurance and will help you sell your car. They have remember your forces. So something that you can just keep in your brain is forces. Okay, it's summertime, and what are my forces? You gotta want to have fuel for your car, super basic, and everyone is probably really on top of it because you have to be driving a lot. And so fuel for F, O for oil. It's going to talk about oil and will help reduce overheating, which is absolutely important in the summertime. R for rubber. That is talking about both the tires and the windshield wiper blades, which is going to possibly crack in the summertime. So you're going to want to lift them up and check the blade itself for any like imperfections and wear and tear and stuff like that. Especially in Colorado, sudden downpours is something that has been known to happen. So checking those out beforehand will be a good idea. Again, the tires, making sure the wear is even, which, if it's not, then maybe the pressure's off, wanting enough tread. So see for coolant. If it's summertime and you don't have coolant, that is going to be a big problem. So just monitoring that. Then E for electric, sorry, talking about making sure all your head beam lights are still working, your brake lights, all the lights, and then all the lights on your dashboard panel. Talking about, have you not noticed that your gas is low because you didn't get a little light, but oh, it's almost at E? You want to make sure that all those little things are also working. And windows, can you roll up and down your windows? And then screen wash is the last one, talking about windshield wiper fluid. They were talking about bugs. So on your summer trip, you don't want the bugs to get in the way. But in general, that's just going to help keep things nice and safe. So staying warm, we're moving on. This is again for us. We're going to talk about some things. There's not a ton. There's a lot more for the summertime, but we'll talk about things that you can do. So this person talked about their insulated sunshades. They got theirs from WeatherTech, and this is from the Hungry Hiker. So I got a lot of tips from people that actually like they go camping and then they live in their car and they, travel. So a lot of those people recommend having insulation in the car. So the easiest one for us is to have sunshades. Some of them claim to be insulated, or if you have the ones where it's black on one side and then kind of a shiny reflexive on the other, during the summertime, make sure the reflexive is on the out so the sun bounces back. But in the wintertime, flip it so the heat kind of bounces back in to keep it a little bit warmer. That's something that I've heard and could pass on. And hopefully, we have sunshades for that summertime. And then if your heater just is not doing a lot for you, or maybe you have an older car, you can buy ones that plug into the car charger, the thicker ones. So you can plug that in for heat. You also have seat warmers and steering wheel warmers that are the exact same. You have to plug them in. But if you don't have seat warmers, that is something that's just right off the bat will help keep you warmer and give you warmth for not just the air, but also from behind, which can help out a lot. And the steering wheel warmers, we don't want to be wearing gloves because that can be dangerous depending on the type of gloves that you have. So maybe having a steering wheel cover on that's like fuzzy would keep it from being super warm or super cold in the wintertime, or having one that warms. So those are some ideas. We can also talk about pre-warming the car. So what we like to do in the wintertime is to let our car run. If you have that auto starter, or if you don't, you can buy one and make it an auto start. Just let it sit there, letting the car warm itself before we get in so we are not freezing. Um, they do say that you should not run it for more than 2 minutes, just because then you're wasting fuel, you're letting emissions out into the air. So they don't, no one was saying run it however long you want for more than 2 minutes. So that's kind of the max of what they're saying. And so moving on to the air vents, wanting to point it down to your chest to help warm your body first. And then after that point, move it towards your feet because again, heat rises. Um, and then if you're all good, aim it wherever, but that's the order that they're recommending: chest, feet, and then wherever. And some general ideas is things like wear a hat because you lose a lot of heat from your head, keep a blanket in the car, things that you're probably already know or are already doing. Having an insulated thermos is good. Just having a warm drink, even if it's water. And if you want to leave it in your car, then it's going to be longer lasting, or if you take it with you, that's probably the best idea. But then once you get into the cold car, you can drink and it's just more pleasant. Something to consider getting are hand warmers. They do have reusable ones now. So what I would recommend is going on Amazon, getting one of those. That way you can keep it in your jacket pocket, turn it on your way out. turn it off while you're doing your therapy. And then on your way back out, you can go ahead and turn it on. That way, you're not wasting a ton, but also you don't have to be bringing in two sets with you just for that trip going back. So that is something that you can definitely do. And then moving on to care for your car, there is not as much as again the summertime. But talking about winter oils in Colorado, we have very cold weather at times. Again, to kind of dependent on where you are located, but they have oils that have lower viscosity because in the winter time they like to get thick. And so if it is started off baseline lower, it can help your engine just start a little bit easier and reduce strain on the battery, make it work a little easier. And then having synthetic oils are going to be less likely to freeze and get thicker because it doesn't have any wax in them. Um, Adding on to your gas, you can add things like fuel additives that are have antifreeze in it and water removers to prevent your gas from gelling. Diesel car, like trucks especially, are kind of prone to that. So that is something that you might want to consider adding along if the weather is extreme enough to do it. Talking about warming your car, again, we already said you don't want to let it sit for more than 2 minutes without you in there. But if you do want to let your car run for at least 30 seconds before actually driving it, making your way out there, that's going to help all the oils run through, get a little bit warmer so it can work easier. So that's something that's recommended is between the 30 seconds at least, and then no more than 2 minutes. And then there are a lot of benefits of warming up your car before actually going, especially if you know that there's a lot of snow and it's going to have to work harder. It can reduce misfires and keep good acceleration, and then sitting there so warm air, and then also it just improves your efficiency. So lots of benefits to letting it sit a little bit before peeling out, and then you may want to use external air if you're getting a lot of foggy windows. That's for safety, but also that visibility piece, and that will reduce eye strain if we have a clear view. So now we're going to talk about safety. So there are clients of yours that live in nice areas and then clients that may not live in nice areas. So keeping yourself and keeping your car safe is something that we're going to talk about. So a lot of cars have alarms. Kids, you leave your kid in the car and then they accidentally set it off, and then it's a whole thing, and it's effective because everyone's hearing it, it's like, uh-oh. So that's the primary easy way to deter people that don't want attention. If your car doesn't have it, it might be worth installing one. And then a lot of it is common sense. So things like don't leave your key in the car, don't leave valuables, like leave your phone there where everyone can see it. You don't want to make your car more appealing than it actually is, keeping things locked. And again, windows, if you don't live in a safe, or if you're not in a as safe spot as you'd like to leave your car, but it's the summertime, still raise the windows, don't leave them cracked. And then parking in well lit areas. If you're at night, most therapists, if it's not the summertime, wouldn't be out that late, but still. And then something that I thought was less obvious, I hadn't heard before, is parking towards the curb. So if you're pulling up and you're parking with the curb on your right, you're going to want to twist the steering wheel so your car tires are facing the right. That's to prevent the car from physically being able to move as smooth as they would hopefully like it to. They talked about people that deal with tow trucks. That tow truck, it's going to be a bit of a problem for them. So that's something you can do. Talking about deterrence, etching your VIN number on your windows is going to make it harder for the thieves to steal, but also a little more expensive if they're wanting to replace the windows. So that's a deterrent, but also makes it easier for you to reclaim your car if they have the VIN number in there. So something to consider. And then steering wheel lock, another easy deterrent. I believe you can get them on Amazon. If you haven't seen one before, yeah, kind of cup it onto the wheel and then stick the stick out as far as it can. That way it has a big clunky stick on it and you can't turn the car. So easy visual deterrent, but it's also going to be a physical one because it's going to be harder to um, move the car. So something else is dash cams or video surveillance. And in general, I would recommend getting one just for kind of liability stuff. You guys are driving a lot on the road, a lot with a lot of crazy people. So if you have a camera and something happens, you have your story, you have your proof. So that is something beyond safety, just in kind of sketchier areas, just driving. That's going to be something that I would consider buying just for yourself. But then having one that runs 24 hours, you can keep track of your car, and it's also something that visually they can see. So it's another visual deterrent. And then safety, just having an emergency kit. This isn't going to prevent a thief or anything, but you guys are driving all over the place. If you break down and you don't have, and you're not near your home, your community, it's going to be maybe a minute before someone can get out to help you. So having things like water, first aid, jumper cables or that little reflexive triangle, all of that is going to be something you want to have with you all the time. Especially, again, you guys are driving a lot, so you more than anyone should be safe. And so that's all that I have for you. All in all, driving um, driving for your job can be a little bit uncomfortable because the weather can be a little bit uncomfortable because you're sitting for a long time. So, having tips like we learned with the ergonomic portion, having ways to help quickly cool your car, things like that is going to make it a little bit easier and nicer on your body long term. And then safety. If you don't have a car, it's going to be hard to see clients. So, keeping yourself safe with things like the emergency kit, but also your car safe with things like that VIN number. So, thank you so much for letting me present to you.